This past summer, I traveled to New York to visit the West Point campus for a scheduled private tour. West Point is one of the top 2 universities that I'm considering attending for my college career. I was traveling with my mother to meet up with my best friend Troy and his mother and his sister Claire, who we were dropping off at summer camp on the West Point campus. Our day started around 6 o'clock in the morning of our departure. We took an Uber to the airport in order to make an 8 o'clock flight. We had a connecting flight to Chicago to New York, while my friend's flight was direct from San Antonio to Newark Airport. So even though they departed after we did, they would arrive quite a while before us. Once we completed the first leg of our journey, we were greeted with a surprise in Chicago. Almost every flight to the East Coast had been canceled due to weather. I called my friend and learned that his flight had not been canceled, but delayed by a couple of hours. My mom and I began our search to find an alternate flight to New York. After around 30 minutes of searching, we realized there was no way for us to fly into New York on that day, even though our luggage was still going. No matter what route we checked, we had accepted the reality that we were probably going to be stuck in Chicago overnight. At this point, we made a conscious decision to make the most of a not-so-great situation. The airline said we had 2 options. One was to fly to Nashville and stay the night, and the other was to fly to North Carolina and stay the night. But there was no way for us to get to New York on that same day. Both cities offered an 11 p.m. departure on the following day, so my mom came up with a plan to make a day out of the layover in Nashville to see the city and take a tour of Vanderbilt University. The only problem was that my tour of West Point was very early the next morning, and I didn't want it to cut it so close. So I came up with the idea of booking a new reservation to the closest airport to New York and driving the rest of the way there. I started looking at upcoming flights and then checking the driving distance on iMaps. The next flight to the area was a plane ride to Boston, but it was full, so just in case, I put us on the standby list. My second option was a later flight to Philadelphia, but it was a shorter drive from there to the New York airport. So we ended up making those 2 decisions. We ended up getting 2 seats on the flight to Boston, and we jumped on the plane at the last second. Because my family has traveled quite a lot, I am accustomed to them making all of our travel arrangements. But during the flight, I was looking over our options of getting to New York from Boston. One option was to take a 4-hour Uber ride, or a 5-hour train ride. I decided that I could contribute to the trip by checking out our options, so I booked the train ride that was 25 minutes from when we landed, and we probably wouldn't be able to make. But because it stated that I could get a no-hassle full refund, I decided to make a try for it. Once we landed, I told my mom the plan, and she was quite impressed. In order for us to make the train ride, I had to schedule an Uber for us to get from the airport in Boston to the train station. Once we got to the train station, we were faced with either taking a $300 Uber ride because we had missed our train ride, or waiting for the next train ride in 45 minutes. We decided to go with the Uber since it was a shorter ride, so I just scheduled it. When the driver arrived, he was driving a very sketchy car that didn't look like it could make a trip across town, let alone all the way to New York City. Added to that was the fact that he spoke no English and didn't understand that he was agreeing to drive us all the way to New York. Based on our gut instincts, we decided to take the train ride. I had never traveled by train, plenty of subways, but not by a proper train. So I had no idea what to expect. When we went down to the platform and we waited for the train. When the train arrived, we boarded the first car, and I was glad to find out that the train had far exceeded my expectations. It was quite nice. The conductor came by to check our tickets, but when he got to us, he said we were in the wrong rail car. He said we were supposed to be all the way in the back of the train. I thought maybe we had accidentally sat in first-class seats and we were being kicked out or degraded to lesser seats. While this conversation went on, the train had already started moving, and walking to the back of a train going over 100 miles per hour with nothing to hold on to was not the easiest of things. When we finally got to the back, I was shocked. It turned out that I had accidentally bought business class tickets, which happened to be the nicest seats on the train. I guess worse mistakes could be made. Around an hour into the 5.5-hour train ride, my mom asked if I could get her some coffee from the food car. So I got up and made my way there. Once I got there, the train happened to be making a stop at the same time, which I thought was a nice convenience. I ordered the coffee for my mom, along with a water and some snacks for myself. Once the lady handed me my things, my hands were completely full, and it happened that the train had started moving at the exact same time, in a rather quick manner. I ended up falling flat on my butt in front of everyone in the dining car. Luckily, I didn't spill my mom's coffee, just made a fool out of myself in front of everyone else. I made my way back to my seat and decided to watch a couple of movies, to include Forrest Gump, which is one of the greatest movies of all time. When we finally arrived in New York City, we had to take another Uber ride to the Newark airport, where our luggage was headed. When we got to the airport around midnight, we went in and talked to the airline representatives, where we found out that we would be waiting for another 1 to 2 hours for our luggage to arrive. By this time, my mom and I had hardly eaten anything at all that day, and we were both starving, but as luck would have it, everything was closed. Once we finally recovered our luggage 2 hours later, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I booked us a 1.5 Uber ride to our hotel in West Point. When the driver arrived, he was driving a very large, comfy car, so it was a nice ride to our hotel. We finally pulled into our hotel at 3:30 in the morning, so 17.5 hours later, 2 plane rides, 4 Ubers, and a train ride later, we finally made it. This trip taught me that persistence is key and to never give up. I had a goal set in mind to go to West Point that day, and I was going to make it happen. Sometimes in life, you are faced with not the best of situations, but you just have to work with what you have. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Don't always take no for an answer. As some of my friends say, no isn't a word in my vocabulary. Being so stubborn is a quality that can work for or against you. If you want to get something done, being stubborn is extremely helpful. But being stubborn all the time without a purpose just wastes everyone else's time. You have to pick and choose your battles. A part of growing up is learning where those lines and boundaries are and when it is appropriate to cross them. These are all lessons and qualities I have learned and acquired throughout my lifetime. Not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I have come a long way. Whether it was getting in trouble with my parents, getting chewed out by my teachers, or just getting in fights with my friends, I have learned many things from my mistakes. You can only fail if you learn nothing from your mistakes. Coming to TMI and joining the Corps of Cadets has really given me a push in the right direction. Having such an amazing environment to be in over the past 3 years has really helped me grow and mature as a person. Whether it be the teachers who have acted as parental figures to me, or my amazing friends who act as my loving family, they're always there for me, to support me and lift me up when I fall. When it comes to my true family, I have them to thank most, and I would not be where I am today without them. My parents are greater than anything I could ever ask for, and are truly the best. They have always loved me and supported me no matter what. They have done such a great job keeping me on the right path in life. If I ever achieve anything great in my life, I have them to thank. Another family member that has always been there for me as I have grown up, and where I get most of my qualities from, is my grandmother. I have learned so much from her, and she has truly helped me mature to where I am. She has always been there for me, just like she is today, sitting in the front row. And today happens to be her 75th birthday. So happy birthday, and thank you for everything that you have done for me. All of these factors have played a huge role in my growth in character. This trip was a true test of my maturity. 2 or 3 years ago, I could not have imagined making it all the way to West Point that day. But this trip was for me, and I felt it was my responsibility to get us there. You can never give up when things are difficult. You can't always change the situation that you're in, but you can always change your mindset to improve the outcome. Thank you.